Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got some positive news. Microsoft is launching an identity platform on the Bitcoin mainnet. And we've got two pieces of negative news, which is India plans a Bitcoin ban, even as the banking system gradually collapses, plus Russia doing the same thing. So we will see what happens. But in my opinion, we actually just need to get ready because these two countries could actually ban cryptocurrency, and there is a huge opportunity when that happens. Before we do that, let's take a look at the market. So today is June 12th. It is almost 5 o'clock p.m. Texas time. And it looks like we've got a little bit of a bounce for Bitcoin. Looks like it rebounded just a little bit after yesterday's correction. So it's up 1% to 31.8 at 237. Tether's Tether, XRP, wow, 19 cents. Bitcoin Cash 240, 183, 16, and all the rest of them. So pretty much the same type of thing. Crypto.com making a nice big jump, 5.4, and I think Cardano up 4%. So looking pretty stable. Let's hope that continues. But let's jump into the big story, Microsoft. Launching an identity platform on Bitcoin mainnet. When I first saw this article, I was like, all right. Another big company is doing something on top of a second layer and whatever else. But I think the ramifications are what's important here. So let's just dive right in. So it says here, Microsoft just launched the public beta of its decentralized identity ecosystem called ION on the Bitcoin mainnet. This was announced last year. ION is designed to be a decentralized network that will allow people to manage their own digital identities built on open source code. It's a public, permissionless Layer 2 network that operates independently of centralized parties, even Microsoft, according to Buckner, and Buckner is the senior program manager for this project. So it states right here, ION's now ready for people to create decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. So he goes on to state, to get started with ION, you can create unpublished ION DIDs with basic client libraries, which you can instantly use for authentication and credential use cases. Run your own node to create published DIDs that are discoverable in the ION network, or find a node to publish DID operations for you. Since the keys for your DIDs never leave your hands and all ION operations are assigned locally on your device, you have the assurance that only you can modify the state of your DIDs no matter how you choose to interact with the ION network. So that's a lot of gobbledygook, and I had to break it down. I actually took a look at the actual blog post. It's going to make more sense in a second, but creating decentralized identifiers, I think this is it is a fantastic move, and I was talking about this yesterday in our video, and one of the things came up was smart contracts and how important they're going to be. But when I hear about these decentralized IDs or identifiers or identifications, the first thing that comes to mind is voting. I think there's a big problem in the United States. I don't know how it is across the world, but voting is a big problem. It's a big problem because there's complaints of voting fraud. There are complaints of people being in line too long, like for 4 to 8 hours just to cast their vote, and a lot of different issues. So if you have something like this, I think this is the first step, to identify yourself in some decentralized way. That way that you could say, hey, this is me, and I'm going to cast my vote, and it has to be counted. And of course, since it's open source, everybody can see it, I can verify all these things. That's a great thing. So before we get in the blog post, let me read this last piece here. Microsoft plans to launch the final version of ION this fall, so that's pretty fast, taking into account the feedback of early adopters, code contributors, and node operators. So released in fall. It seems like everything is kind of coming together right around the end of this year. And these are where you see a lot of predictions come into play as far as like what's going to happen with cryptocurrency digital assets. And so you see this happening. You see these different people saying, well, all these cryptocurrencies are going to pop off and really do well, and other things that are going on in the background. So I think it's one of those things where it might just all come together at the same time. But let's just verify this article because there's a lot of different things going on out there. So let's just take a look at the blog post itself. So I like to really dig into information to see what it really actually is. So when I read that article, I was like, I don't understand. So this blog post kind of lays it all out. So decentralized identifiers, DID, is the foundational technical component that makes decentralized identity possible. Unlike centralized identifiers, commonly used today, like our email addresses, our usernames, all the different things that we have to identify ourselves, DIDs are generated, owned, and controlled by you, the individual, not companies or their centralized entities. Yeah, and just like, email addresses, usernames, who controls those? Who controls your @Gmail, @Yahoo, @ whatever you got? if you're old like me, at AOL.com. But yeah, so who controls those? The big corporations. Now, with these DIDs, you are going to be in control. They are user-owned, unique identifiers tied to a set of cryptographic keys and routing endpoints. Now, I don't know about the routing endpoints, but the cryptographic keys, most of us feel somewhat comfortable with those if we're using our nano ledger or we have some type of a device for our seed phrases. Anyhow, let's move on to other pieces here. So this is interesting because it talks about we're thrilled to see ION make the leap to Bitcoin mainnet for its public beta. ION is an open, public, permissionless layer 2 network built on open source code that anyone can review, run, and contribute to. ION doesn't rely on special utility tokens, trusted validator nodes, or additional consensus mechanism. The deterministic progression of Bitcoin's linear block chronology is the only consensus it requires. And I read this, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, as far as an investor, that's not good for me because I really, to be honest with you, I can't make any money off it. So, I mean, this is good in one respect because we need to kind of move into this direction, especially like I talked about for voting. But as far as like for investing, not so much. However, there's a caveat. We're going to get into that right now. So scroll down, scroll down. This is where it gets interesting. It says, as an open, public, and permissionless network, ION doesn't rely on privileged validators or trusted authorities of any kind. Anyone can run a node to participate in the network. So that sounds very altruistic and fantastic, just the kindness of others. Or people just who wants to run nodes. But they state, in this spirit, we'd like to thank all the individuals and organizations who have been operating nodes and providing feedback since our ION prototype announcement last year, as well as the next wave of collaborators who will run nodes, provide feedback, and help harden ION during the beta run-up to V1 final release. And here are all those collaborators. MATR, NCR, Transmute, Casa. I don't really know those too much, but here's BitPay, leading blockchain payment processor. Here's Gemini, empowering individuals through crypto. Here's Fold, building the payment stack for a new economy. So when it talks about like, oh, it's just going to be these, people just running nodes, it's going to be very fine. And then all of a sudden it's like, but here's these huge entities coming into the fray. All right. I mean, I don't really care. It's just, that's fine with me if they want to do those types of things. But let me ask you a question. What do you think about all this? Do you think that this type of program can run in the background, can run on as a layer 2 solution on top of Bitcoin, and just, kind of have people who just want to run nodes for these DIDs? Or do you think that big corporations will get involved like they always do, and it's just going to get a little bit wonky? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let's move on to the 2 negative topics, which are actually going to be a positive, and I'm going to tell you why. So next up, India plans Bitcoin ban even as its banking system gradually collapses. So the Indian government is planning to introduce a law that would effectively ban Bitcoin. And the news comes months after the Supreme Court of India reversed a Bitcoin ban imposed by the country's central bank. In its ruling, this is the Supreme Court of India, they stated, while we have recognized the power of Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, to take preemptive action, we are testing in this part of the order the proportionality of such measure, for the determination of which RBI, Reserve Bank of India, needs to show at least some semblance of any damage suffered by its regulated entities, but there is none. So what happened was the Reserve Bank of India just came out and go, look, we can't have cryptocurrency digital assets coming in because they are just awful, and there's going to be money laundering, and it's going to go to all these drugs, and it's just bad, and then terrorism, and you name it. Every kind of cliche we can throw at you, we'll throw at you. And that's essentially what all the central banks do. And here we are with the same type of nonsense. But it threw a big monkey wrench in the whole system. And for years, India couldn't do anything. Now, just a couple months ago, maybe 3 months, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, maybe it was like 3 or 4, they finally got it overturned. And now it's legal, which is so weird to think about. It's legal to have cryptocurrency, traded, digital assets, all those things. So, but here we go again. Nevertheless, a draft proposed by an inter-ministerial committee in 2019 had noted Bitcoin's role in money laundering and terrorist financing activities. Again, the same cliche stuff we keep hearing again and again and again. A senior government official told ET that the finance ministry is now looking to have a more effective and irreversible policy to contain such risks. So India's proposal to ban Bitcoin surfaced at a time when the country is facing one of its biggest economic crises, as Asia's third largest economy undergoes its slowest growth in more than 10 years. Rating agency Moody has downgraded status to Baa3. Other agencies such as Fitch and S&P have kept India one position above junk. So I don't know about all that. I'm really not into that sector. But I will speak to this part here about India and what they want to do, which is ban Bitcoin. It's the same issue that they threw at the Supreme Court of India that had to go all the way to the top. And they said, no, we don't see that there is any problem and there is any type of damage. There is none that we can prove or that you can prove. So if you're going to come back like this, it's not going to happen. So that all went into effect. People took the Reserve Bank of India to court and they finally won it. So it's just going to be a same repeat again and again, but it's going to be the same outcome. It's just going to be. Now, whether that happens today, tomorrow, or in 2 years remains to be seen. But I will say one thing about India. India, in my opinion, is going to be it's going to become the world's next manufacturing superpower when companies pull out of China. But they need to keep up with financial technology just like America needs to keep up because both are failing miserably. I'm going to tell you why. So, as you know, I have an Amazon business and I used to heavily import things from China. But over the years, I can tell you from experience that China has gotten more expensive and more expensive and more expensive. And now what happened with everything with the virus and all the different problems that they have, I have pulled my business out and I have a lot in India. And I made some connections over there. It's great. I have no problems. And I can just tell you that a lot of different third-party resellers just like myself are doing the same thing. And if it's not India, it's America. So that's just how it's happening. And I think India can be another great manufacturing superpower. But if they fall behind, just like in our next story, Russia's going to fall behind. And just like we see now in America, where America is falling behind with financial technology and trying to update this decades-old financial system, then everybody else is going to leave them in the dust. And China's doing a great job with their digital yuan. So we will see. So here's my question. Do you believe that the Reserve Bank of India will be successful in this next proposal after losing their initial case in front of India's Supreme Court? Or do you think that this will be defeated as the leadership in India will recognize the importance of moving forward? Because this isn't going to go through the court system. This is going to go through the legislature. And this is going to go into the prime minister. I think his name's Modi. And it'll also be signed into law. So I mean, if it does, then get ready for another round of court cases, which would be awful. Anyhow, this whole thing plays into the next story, which goes over Russia. So Russia minister pushes back against sweeping ban on crypto. Same type of nonsense. Before I even read this article, what can you guess is the reason of why Russia wants to ban cryptocurrency digital assets? I'm pretty sure you know. Russia's Ministry of Economy has criticized the bill being considered in the state Duma, which seeks to ban the use of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in the country. Draft bill submitted to the Russian parliament recently, which, if signed into law, will punish crypto dealers with prison terms and fines. The ministry wants to establish mechanisms for the controlled circulation of virtual money. The authority believes that the adoption of current bill version will only create an uncontrolled black market. So if this comes into effect and Russians can't engage in cryptocurrency digital assets, like fine, we'll just do a black market and go underground. But I don't understand because you can't really shut it down. And I know that Vladimir Putin, he knows more about cryptocurrency than or digital assets than a lot of different top officials that are out there. I remember there was a segment where somebody asked them if they are going to create a type of cryptocurrency, and he just laid it out like, "What are you, stupid? I can't. We can't do that because of da da da." And it was like a perfect answer. And he's even been on record saying that he believes in it in some way, shape, or form. So I don't see how this is going to get passed, but apparently in Parliament, they are real hot to trot to get it going. But again, I mean, you can't shut down Bitcoin, cryptocurrency digital assets, unless you shut down the internet, and good luck with that. And I know every time I say, well, you can't shut down the internet, Someone invariably will say, well, what about an EMP bomb? How about an electromagnetic pulse? How many EMPs have you lived through? Because I got to tell you, I've been on this earth for 40 plus years and getting older every day. And I have never experienced an EMP. I don't know if you have. I don't know where you live, but that hasn't happened to me my entire existence. So I don't think that's going to be a thing. Anyhow, moving on. In contrast, recent draft bills submitted by a group of deputies seek to penalize individuals with 7 years in prison. That's ridiculous. And fines up to $7,000 for using cryptocurrencies in financial transactions. In addition, crypto firms can face nearly $30,000 in regulatory fines if they get involved in crypto business without approval from their Russian central bank. Again, central banks behind everything. They cannot deal with this. They're like, we got to ban it. This is awful. But this is a smart statement. According to head of state Duma's Financial Market Committee, the Financial Market Committee, Anatoly Aksakov, even with a sweeping ban on crypto assets, users will bypass it through VPNs. Therefore, the prohibitive approach will not solve the problem, but will actually create an uncontrolled black market. Exactly. Recent proposals can't come as Russia's parliament could pass its long-awaited crypto laws as early as the upcoming autumn. So again, here we go. The fall. It's going to happen in the fall. All the different things that are coming up, end of 2020. So it's going to be an interesting time. In May 2018, however, the lower chamber of the State Duma passed the first reading almost unanimously with 410 deputies voted to approve the bill at the hearing and only one voted against it. So if you think it's like a 50-50 type of shot, no, it's like 99% want to do this. The second reading is when amendments are finalized, after which the bill goes to the upper house, the Federation Council, before being signed into law by President Vladimir Putin. So, I mean, maybe it could happen. Who knows? As reported, the proposal legislation explains how banks can apply the broader AML, anti-money laundering framework, dubbed 375P protocol to tackle money laundering related to cryptocurrency. And it's the same song and dance, folks. As you're listening to this video and you're thinking to yourself, well, what could it be? I mean, you know the answer already. You know it's the same thing. It's always about the anti-money laundering. And we got to make sure that this doesn't go for all these terrorist organizations. It doesn't fund these cartels and these drug industries because, you know what? Well, what was it funded 10 years ago? With money, with currency that's going on out there. So don't tell me that this is like the big thing of what's going on. I believe that it's really just the central banks who are fighting to keep control. Let me know what you think in the comment section. That is just how I see it. But here's my final thoughts. With India and now with Russia going through this type of thing, get ready for a big dip. Get ready for a dip if both of these countries ban crypto around the same time. And it could happen. It could happen around the fall. And then we'll see like a big dip. So remember, when China did this, China has had this love-hate relationship with blockchain and cryptocurrency. And when it came out that, when China's president came out and said, hey, you know what, we are all about blockchain. And then everybody went nuts because they were like, oh, they're really into cryptocurrency. And then he came out like a 2 weeks later and says, hey, I said blockchain. I didn't say Bitcoin. And he goes, blockchain is awesome. Everything else is just garbage. And then the price just tanked. And the same thing happened when they started talking about banning it. The same thing's going to happen with India. If they ban it, the same thing's going to happen with Russia. So if these things happen, first, two things. First of all, expect the dip. Second thing, make sure you have some kind of money on the sidelines to buy the dip because it could go down tremendously for people who just don't realize that you can't shut it down. You just can't shut it down. It's not going to happen. And lastly, I will say this. It is amazing how the banks are so concerned about money laundering, yet they do the shadiest things themselves. I mean, and you can look at Wells Fargo. That scandal was, pretty fresh. Nice big fat fine of $185 million for opening up all those unregistered accounts. And then you take a look at, JP Morgan Chase. They had a scandal. They had to pay $30 billion in fines. Then you got the Bank of America. They paid $16 billion. Financial fraud leading up to and during the financial crisis, and even people like Goldman Sachs. I mean, they had a little money laundering issue themselves for $2 billion. Actually, I think it was more than that. That's what they settled for. So with all these things going on, I I just feel like it's just so hypocritical for them to say that. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And that is pretty much it. There's two things I want to go over the last piece here. I get a lot of questions about like which exchanges should I use, and as far as what's going on for the fees. So I have this exchange fees, and if you look in the description of every one of my videos, it's going to be a link. It's going to look like this, and it's going to take you to the exchange fees Google spreadsheet. And these are the ones that I use personally. Coinbase I don't use anymore. I've done a couple of videos on those. I actually have a playlist just for Coinbase and their outages and problems. You can check that out. But here's their rates, and I give you a link at the top because don't just take my word for it. I mean, do your own research, but here's the links to all their fees. The Cash App, I've heard great things. I signed up. I haven't really used it. but here's the fees. Here, also Gemini, I have signed up. I am currently use them. I use a lot of their dollar cost average, where you can just set it and forget it, and I love that part. So if you want to sign up, that's an affiliate link, just so you know, and that goes to support me and the channel. And then also, I recommend Uphold greatly. It is awesome. And there's the fees. Abra I just got into from a recommendation, so I have it on my phone. I have not yet bought anything. But there's also the feed charts. I don't have an affiliate link. I need to get the link in there for Uphold and Abra, sorry. And then Kraken, I just started to use that, but I'll get the fees up there as soon as I'm able to. And that's the big thing. And lastly, of course, thanks to all my supporters. So if you don't know, underneath the video, there's a join button. When you click on the join, if you want to join, you don't get anything special. It's not like you get, special videos and stuff. I don't do that. I just, what it is, it should just say tip, because that's essentially what it is. So for level 1, these ladies and gentlemen pay a couple bucks, and it's like a tip for, I guess, saying good job. So thank you, I appreciate that. Level 2s, they pay a little more, and I give them a shout out. So shout out to All Rights Off. When Mullet helps me hold it down in the video premieres, which I need to do more of, but man, I'm busy. Just too many things going on. Myself, who else? Dave Plum, the Straight Talking Guy, Grant Sharman. We've also got Bruce Wood, Baking Benjamins. They do baking with Tezos, so check them out if you have Tezos. I have Tezos. I should actually be talking to them. Noel, Flippin' Vegas, Martin Lewin, Michael Ralph, William Howell, Crazy Crypto Canuck, Tessie Ryosaki, Positive, Fire Swing Golf. That's a good one. JC Durex, Code, they're coders. Crypto Veritas, John Miller, The Office, L. Merg, Michael Jeffrey, The Kel Show, Mage, or Meg, I think it's Mage Research, Terry Prospery, and of course my man XRP Carolina. So those are the supporters. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. And lastly, there's a scam going on. There's some guy, lady, I don't know who it is. This is my email, dandigitalassetnews with an S at Gmail. And this is the scammer, dandigitalassetnew@gmail. And he or she is going to email you and ask you to be part of my trading group or whatever. It's so stupid. I don't even trade. I just dollar cost average. I'm super boring. So if you get that email, please do two things. First, if you have time, write him back. Tell him what a piece of trash he is for trying to steal money from unsuspecting people who are hardworking, like yourself. And the second thing is, take that email and put it into your junk or spam folder for your email provider. That way, that gets back to whoever manages that person's emails, and it labels him as a spammer, and hopefully gets his account shut down. And that's all I asked for. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. See ya on the next one.